Hey guys, what's up? Driving to work on this Saturday, and just thought I'd talk about something that's been on my mind. Rock music, man. Rock music has always been a big part of who I am in my life, and my dad's a big part of that. Before my dad, my mom had me listening to, I was a kid in the '90s, so. Of course, I was listening to what everyone was listening to as a kid. And then as I became a teenager, my dad was like, hey, son, check out Pink Floyd. And he got me into more so classic rock, And then from there, after I learned more and more about classic rock, I started listening to Linkin Park. I even got dad into Linkin Park. Linkin Park was awesome back in the day. And then like in the 2000s, man, it's funny because the older generation thinks that rock died after the 80s, but my generation thinks that rock died after about the 2000s, because in the 90s you had the grunge thing, and that was good stuff. Not my favorite, but it was good stuff. Nirvana and Alice in Chains and, lots of guys that innovated. There was a lot of innovation going on in rock in the 90s. Smashing Pumpkins, Rage Against the Machine. Talk about innovation. Rage Against the Machine, man. What sounds like Rage Against the Machine? But in the 2000s, that's where I'm stuck. Because, then we got the whole new metal thing with Disturbed and System of a Down and Chevelle, and that was my money. What am I trying to say? My favorite time for rock and roll, and probably for music in general. I love a lot of the classics too, but my heart will always be in the 2000s rock and roll, man. We had the pop punk thing going on with Blink and Sum 41 and Yellowcard. And you can't even find pop punk anymore. You can't even find rock and roll really anymore. The only guys that are keeping rock alive right now are Papa Roach, Shinedown, 3 Days Grace. Those are about the only three reputable rock bands I can even think of that you still hear on the radio that actually make alright rock songs. And it's sad, man. If you think about the history of music, just like the history of anything, there's always been innovation and changes and whatever. Changes in trends and popularities of different styles and genres. But rock music is almost gonna kind of end up like jazz. Nowadays you hear jazz like every now and then, and people think jazz is like cute and like something you listen to like drink tea to, or crumpets, and it's left up to more higher class, just like classical, for good purposes. But jazz started out as a rebellion against formality. I guess really all rock music all music in general really starts out as some sort of rebellion against what was already there. But the funny thing is that in the here's the thing that I see the most that's interesting to me, is that in pop culture, rock music is almost looked at in like this cute way that jazz music is looked at. Like, if you go on like American Idol and you watch a singer from American Idol, every now and then they'll have a rock guy, right? What does that rock guy do? He does the same exact thing that people think of as rock, and that's that yelling thing, right? Like, not modern rock singing. He does like the Dio thing. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't care how people sing. You can sing however you want. But that's not modern rock singing. And people just assume that that's rock, and that kills rock a little bit, like the current state of rock. And that's just one example. I didn't really explain my point, which I don't know if I ever really explained my point all that well. But you know, I just think it's funny how in pop culture, for the people who don't really listen to rock, like my fiance is a good example. You know, the people who listen to pretty much everything else, country and whatever, rap, popular music, pop, they look as rock at like this cute little cousin that was, you know. It's just sad, man. Rock is and was the best because it's music that means something. Rock isn't about shaking your ass. Well, unless it is. And it's not about how much money you got that day on your bitches. It's not about your wife leaving you and your dog hating you. It's about kicking ass. It's about having an emotion about something and really meaning it and conveying that through music. I don't know. And I think the downfall of rock started with Volbeat. That's not a joke. I think Volbeat was part of the death of rock, as well as Five Finger Death Punch. I think they helped out too, because they started that whole really electronic kind of rock sound that Disturbed dabbled in and still does, and it just doesn't work, man. The whole electronic rock, you know, get back to the days of rawness. There's way too much perfection in music nowadays. Rawness is beautiful. If you haven't noticed, I'm big on that anyways. If I post a drum video, I won't cut out the parts where I messed up. If I post any kind of music video, usually I keep in all the stuff that I did, because that's part of it. Music is not perfect for a reason. It's not perfect for a reason. Just like humans aren't perfect, so the human expression of music is not supposed to be perfect. And that's one of the problems with popular music, pop, is that pop gives off the impression that music is perfect. Every chord progression is beautiful. 1-4-5, 1-4-6-5. Every beat is exactly stable. There's no unstableness in pop anymore. Every now and then you might hear like a secondary dominant chord or something that brings a little bit of tension into the music. But that's what rock does really well. It brings tension into the music on purpose. Because like Beethoven and Mozart knew, and Vivaldi, tension and release is how you make music flow. So if nothing has tension, it won't have flow. Now, there's some really good pop guys. I listen to pop every now and then. I like some pop music, like Bruno Mars. I think he's insanely good, and I think his music is really damn good. Adele, you know, there's a lot of people that I like. I don't really mean to say pop in general. This video is more about rock and its notion in the popular culture right now. And I don't know if it's just the record labels, but here's the thing, man, like Gibson is going under, right? Guitar Center is not doing good. People are not buying guitars as much as they were. And I understand that, you know, products and things have trends and bell curves, and there's a high point and a low point for products, a beginning and an end. But why? You know, and I mostly mean like electric guitar, you know, which I play acoustic guitar mostly myself, but that's not the point. Excuse me, that's not the point I'm getting at. The point I'm getting at is that culture is going to become like jazz culture. It's going to become like, hey, there's those weirdo guys over there that still play rock music. You know, which is kind of how blues is nowadays. You know, it's like, oh, there's those guys playing blues, that style that died out years ago. And I guess that's just how music and how life is that, you know, things start, they go, and then they cycle into something else. I always thought dubstep was very interesting. I always thought, man, if that's where music is going, dubstep, then I don't even know what to think, you know. Here I am, a guy that went and studied music at school, common practice, classical, you know, music theory, the whole nine. And if music goes to where, like, it doesn't care about any of that stuff, then, which is really the fundamentals of sound to begin with, and the tendencies of sound, then that'll be shitty, man. You know? I don't know. I just think it's crazy that rock is dying, and it's going to become a faded out old style, just like jazz is now. Jazz still happens, by the way. I got 2 gigs coming up, one this coming week and one next week. So I'm happy to play jazz, man. I'm happy to keep it alive. And yeah, I don't know, just a discussion. Tell me what you guys think if you're a rocker and you've kept up with kind of the modern times of rock. I'll see you on the next one.